Hello friends, Brad Smith here from The Way. So it has occurred to me in preparing for this week's message that I have learned infinitely more in failure and in defeat than I've ever learned in victory. And I've had my own ups and downs, my highs and lows throughout life, and I look back upon the things that I learned from the times that I failed or that I was defeated in some way. And I've just learned so many lessons about myself, about God, about life, about the nature of this world. So this week at The Way, we're going to be talking about Jacob and his wrestling match with God in Genesis 32. This is kind of an unusual account referenced in the book of Hosea chapter 12, whereby Jacob actually wrestles with God. And what we really see is this is a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ. This is a Christophany. And we learned last week that Jesus, he sees us. He is a God who sees us. And some of the challenging things of that are that he sees right to our hearts. He sees what is most important to us. He sees the areas in our life that we keep fenced off from him, the places we keep ourselves to ourselves, or the things we cling to the tightest. And then he demands that we surrender those things. And then he demands that we move in opposition to those things. So last week we saw he went to Hagar in the wilderness, and he saw her by the spring all by herself, and he goes to her and he seeks her out, he finds her, and then he demands that she return and submit to Rebekah, that this idol she had of her child inside of her that would cause her to be prideful and to look upon Rebekah with contempt. Jesus goes to her and calls her to submit to her, to move in opposition to that area in her heart. And so this week we'll see that Jesus comes to us. He pursues us. He's always the pursuer, and he initiates this wrestling match with us. And maybe you're wrestling with God right now, even as we speak about different things. Maybe he's calling you to surrender a part of yourself that you don't want to surrender, something you've been clinging to for some time. I became a Christian in March of 2005, and I had that started a 13-year wrestling match with Jesus, whereby he called me to surrender a part of myself that I clung to. It is a part of myself that had been with me since I was a young boy, and I just clung to this various aspect of myself, even though it became harder and harder and harder to resist him, until finally I could resist no more in July of 2017, and I surrendered that to him fully. I was wrestling with Jesus. So hey, this weekend we're going to talk about wrestling with God, wrestling with Jesus. What's that mean? What's that look like? How do we respond? And ultimately, we see that this is cause for rejoice. That Jesus he's not content to leave us where we're at, that he always pursues us and finds us and engages us in this wrestling match, and we ought to rejoice in this. We ought to have joy in this, even though it might be hard, it might be easy, it might change the very fabric of your existence, wrestling with God. But again, it's a good thing, and we rejoice in it. So hey, if you're in Clarksville this Sunday, come see us at The Way. Otherwise, find a church, get there. If you are a man, take your families to church. God bless.